Good evening. This is the Chicago Computer Society Windows, Office, and AI meeting for January 2026. This evening, we're going to have a lot to talk about, and I don't know how much we'll get through, but we'll do what we can. Uh, I'm going to open up the floor for open forum. Anybody got any problems, questions, comments, etc., etc.?
And we handled the issue I was talking about just before the meeting, or at least mention it
The which?
with the Microsoft Store.
Okay, go ahead.
I does anybody know? Has anybody else had a problem with the Microsoft Store under Windows 11 25H2 and not been able to locate the store troubleshooter?
No, but the last time I did, I think was in 24H2, and I did have access to the fixer at the time.
Okay.
So but see, the thing is, January's update from Microsoft broke a whole bunch of things, and right now there are two patches out that I know of right now, and it only fixes maybe four issues. One of them is kind of hilarious. You can't shut down your system anymore.
Whoa.
Another one is a remote desktop, I think, type connection, and there's a couple other ones. They're probably the easier ones that Microsoft was able to make a fix for. But uh, here's the thing: anybody who gets the end of month updates, I know Bert does, I usually do, uh, you'll get these patches automatically. But if you're one of the people having a problem, you've got to go to in a web browser to Microsoft Update Catalog, and you have to manually download the two updates and apply them to get your system more functional than what it might be. But I haven't had any problem yet. Mind you, I say yet. I've only got two 25H2s. I've been holding off my 24H2s, upgrading to 25H2, mostly because of some of the problems that have arisen in 25H2, even if they haven't been directly affecting me so far, knock on wood, but it's one of these things where you don't know exactly how to approach the problem. Some say set up the delay. Don't let the damn updates come in until at least a couple weeks later, and that way you'll find out if there are serious problems or not in the meantime, and if there's any patches sent out. Uh, you can go to the Microsoft Update Catalog and download those updates ahead of the end of month secondary update. The secondary update is a preview of patches to come next month. And what the heck is this one? Uh, hello, 007.cak@gmail.com. Please change your name on your image. At any rate, bottom line is with a lot of things are going on. There are a lot of people now calling Windows 11 Microsoft slop. Microsoft doesn't like it. They're trying to fight that, but at the same time, too, it's mostly because of what the heck is coming out in 24H2 that for 6 months, most people skipped it until it got most of the problems fixed. And 25H2 is having a lot of issues, especially if you have a NVIDIA GPU in your system. It may be causing you to have problems. Double check with NVIDIA to see if they've got a patch to apply to your system, and you might get it back. They did for December, but I don't know yet about January, because I don't have a NVIDIA setup right now, so I'm not worried about that being broken. But there are, at least tonight, I'll be delving into a couple of issues that you need to know about that a lot of people are having problems with. At least 2 patches have been issued, but you have to manually download them and install them to take care of some of the problems that are occurring. Anybody else got any problems, comments, etc.? Nobody?
No.
My goodness. Oh, Carl. 007, huh? Lots of luck. Haven't seen
Carol's
you,
in
Carl.
Michigan, so maybe he's having some issues up there.
No, Carl's in Troy, Michigan. A little too far away from Grand Rapids to have the good weather that everybody else is having. He's on the wrong side, let's put it that way. If he was on the Canadian side instead of in Michigan, north of Detroit, he might have gotten some bad weather as well. I mean, Carl, we haven't heard from you or seen you in ages, it seems like. All right. Since there is nothing else, then I'm going to try and see if I can get going on my presentation. Since nobody else is talking, I gotta find where it's at. I think this is the one I want. Yeah. Okay. Now I've got. Whoop. Hey, now, darn you. All right. Okay. Yeah. I need you like I need a third head. 2's enough. All right. I got cats, so one of them wanted to cozy up. Here's the first presentation I've got. Microsoft rushes out an emergency 11 patch after update of January, the second Tuesday, breaks many PCs. So I'm going to play this one first.
Emergency Windows 11 patch after an update breaks your PC. So we're taking a look at that in today's video and how you can patch and fix it. Now, Microsoft acknowledge 3 issues and have rolled out this quick update which you can download and install on the system. So officially they have admitted at least 3 problems so far out of that big Patch Tuesday update in January. So let's talk about the first bug. The first bug is Microsoft broke the remote desktop connections from the Windows app in January 2026 after installing the Windows 11 update KB50744 KB5077744 on Windows 11 25H2. There has been reported signs of remote desktop connections from the Windows app fail during the sign-in. The second one was the Windows 11 23H2 shutdown bug, and that was after installing the Windows 11 KB5077744 update on Windows 11 23H2. Some PCs have a safeguard secure launch enabled, and it can't complete a normal shutdown or hibernate. So that is the problem with that one right there, which Microsoft have released a patch for, and the remote desktop version. But also Microsoft have also omitted a bug that crashes Outlook Classic, and there's not a fix for that right now. Now, these are the actual files that you would need to download from the Microsoft Update Catalog to get them installed, and they're the versions of Windows that they would work on. So the KB files are the ones you'd need to download to fix the two issues that we talked about. And this is what we call a out-of-band Windows 11 update after January's patch Tuesday. Has broke a number of things when they rolled this update out. So head over to the Microsoft Update Catalog and do a search for that KB file for your system. So whether you're on Windows 11 23H2, 24H2 or 25H2 or Windows Server, download the required file and look on the list on the left hand side here and make sure you're clicking on the one that suits your system. Once you've done that, you can download the file. In my case, I'm going to be downloading the KB5077744. That's for Windows 11 25H2, and we'll get that installed on the system. This is really for people that are suffering with this issue and they need to get it patched and fixed right away because it's stopping their workflow, and this is why you would need to do this immediately. If you're having no issues at all and you don't use any of these products, or you're not having this problem, then you probably won't need to update right away. But in my opinion, if it's there and it's able to be installed on the system, you may as well update it and get it installed and take away those problems. So the file we're using here for Windows 11 25H2 is that one there, and we're going to download it and get it installed. Now the problem with Microsoft is they release these updates early, and of course they come with lots of bugs in them. And when they break things, they don't actually always acknowledge them straight away. So once they've been acknowledged, Microsoft will put them on the known issues website. And if you go there now, which I'll show you a little bit later on, it's pretty sparse. There's not a lot of known problems on there. And yet there is known problems that people are posting and talking about. It's just that Microsoft don't want to sometimes acknowledge these. So we have the file downloaded right here, and we're going to go ahead and install this, and this will fix the shutdown issue and also the remote connection problem. If you're working in a business and you're watching this video, then you'll need to download that KB file here to get it installed. And if you're having this issue at home, you will definitely want to do this as well. It's a simple case of just downloading the file, double clicking on it, and you can see which file it is right here. And you'll get this box popping up. Just say yes here, and it will go ahead and unpack this package, and then it will go ahead and start to install it. So what we'll do here is we'll let this unpack itself, and then we'll go ahead and let it install. And once you get this installed, it will address the shutdown and also remote desktop problems that Microsoft have now finally acknowledged. There is still a few other ones that are floating about that they need to fix. And whenever they release the patch for those, I will make an update video for you, letting you know that you can now patch that system. Now don't panic if you see it not doing anything on the screen. It's because it takes quite a while. I've speeded this process up to unpack it and install it onto the system. And you just have to be patient. And once it's finished, you should see something like this. And when it's finished, it will want to reboot and install, finally update the system. So I'll quickly speed this process up and quickly reboot the system to get this installed on the system. Once it's fully updated, you want to go back to the Windows Update panel and just check to see if there's any other patches or updates, just in case it does trigger some other updates from Microsoft. It's always best to check. So I'll quickly speed this up and get back to the desktop, and we'll do that. And we'll go over to the known issues page, which I always tell people to keep an eye on. Even though Microsoft doesn't always add all of the stuff on there, it's always best to keep an eye on there because they do give you some sort of information sometimes. Now, of course, some of these problems are major problems, and obviously it will take a while before Microsoft recognize these and put them onto that document. And sometimes they're just like one-off little issues that some people may be having and going up on Reddit and places like that and making posts about these problems. But to my knowledge, there is at least 5 or more issues that are with this very latest Windows 11 update that happened on Patch Tuesday on January. So there is the known issues for Windows 11 25H2. They have every version of Windows on their website where you can go and check for resolved issues, migrated issues, and also issues that have just been added to here. And you can read all about it right here. And you can see there is a connection and authentication failure, one that has now been resolved with the update that we've just downloaded and installed onto that system. So it's always best to keep updated with issues, known bugs like these, and that way the problems will go away. Now, one thing that really frustrates people with Windows 11 is AI and also bloat and also failed Windows updates. It's been a problem for Windows 11. They've been plagued with problems with Windows updates since, I would say 24H2. There was problems with 24H2, 25H2 then come along, and it's continued, and it's not got any better, if I'm honest. And hopefully things will get better in the future. But by then, Windows 12 or a new version of Windows will come out. And unfortunately, it's just what people have to go through. I'm still on Windows 10. I did go to Windows 11 and I went back because I just wanted a stable version. And they've even broken Windows 10 with an update, and I've not rolled that update out yet because I have my Windows updates set to manual, and I take control of my updates when I want to roll out updates. I generally wait for a few weeks until I see what happens, and of course I'm always keeping an eye on things before I roll out updates just to see whether there's any major problems, and that's something that you may want to do to make it a little bit better for you. People seem to want to rush all the time to push out updates as soon as they're released by Microsoft, thinking that's going to make their system better, but sometimes it just breaks things, and it's really good to hold off a little while, just a few weeks. You're not going to be at risk by holding off a few weeks before you run out any sort of updates. Anyway, that's just a quick video on a follow-up video from yesterday's video, which was problems with the latest Windows 11 January Patch Tuesday update. Anyway, my name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Just want to give a quick shout out to all my YouTube members who join my YouTube members group. With your Tier 1, Tier 2 or Tier 3 support, I really do appreciate it.
All right. The thing is, the 7744 patch also applies to 24H2 if you didn't recognize that in his presentation. And it even supposedly can affect 23H2 if anybody's running that. So some of these patches or problems span more than one version, and you'd have to be right now on 21H2 or 22H2 not to have been affected the last 4 or 5 months of patches. So I'm gonna. Does anybody have any comments on this update? Otherwise, I'll go on to the second one. Hearing nothing, I'll proceed. This one here, Microsoft's emergency update just broke Windows 11 again. Can't even shut down.
Down my PC last night. You know the thing you've been doing since like Windows 95? Yeah, that didn't work. And before you ask, no, I didn't break anything. Microsoft did. And here's what really gets me. This isn't some random bug in a beta build. This hit everyone running Windows 11 after their latest security update. Millions of people just couldn't turn off their computers. Look, I've been covering Microsoft's disasters on this channel for a while now, but this one? This is different, because when you can't even shut down your PC anymore, we need to talk about what's actually going on at Microsoft right now. I know I've been a bit quiet lately, but it's my birthday today, so happy birthday to me, and I promise I'm coming back with consistent content. All right, so let me walk you through what happened, because this is genuinely insane. 2 days ago, Microsoft pushed out their first security updates for 2026. Standard stuff, right? Patch Tuesday, security fixes, nothing unusual, except within hours, reports started flooding in. People couldn't shut down their PCs, like at all. The shutdown button just wouldn't work. But it gets worse. Remote desktop completely broke too. So if you're working from home, managing servers, doing any kind of IT work, you're just locked out. Can't sign in, nothing. Now, Microsoft had to issue what's called an out-of-band update. That's tech speak for, oh crap, we messed up so bad we can't wait for the normal update cycle. These are emergency patches. KB5077744 and KB577797, if you want to look them up. But here's what really bothers me about this. This isn't new. This article from Windows Central, I'll link it below, they list out all the bugs Microsoft has pushed in just the last year. There was an update that broke Task Manager. You'd close it, but it wouldn't actually close. It would just sit there in the background, eating up your system resources. So if you're like me and you open Task Manager 10 times a day, your PC would eventually just slow to a crawl. Then there was the File Explorer bug. You're using dark mode, you open File Explorer, and bam, white screen flashbang right in your face. That bug came in an update that was supposed to improve dark mode. You literally cannot make this up. Oh, and my personal favorite, they broke the Windows recovery environment. You know, the thing that's supposed to save your PC when everything goes wrong? Yeah, they made it impossible to actually use. The one safety net Windows has, and they broke it. Now you might be thinking, okay, bugs happen, right? Software is complicated. Sure, I get that. But here's the thing. Microsoft has the Windows Insider program. This is literally thousands of people testing updates before they go out to everyone. That's the whole point. You catch the bugs early, you fix them, then you push the update to the general public. So how are these massive, obvious bugs getting through? We're not talking about some edge case that only affects 3 people running obscure hardware. We're talking about the shutdown button, the most basic function of an operating system. The article puts it pretty bluntly, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they basically say the Windows Insider program just isn't working anymore. These bugs are sailing right through testing and hitting production every single time. And you know what I think is happening? I think Microsoft is rushing. They're pushing updates out faster than they can properly test them. Maybe it's pressure from management. Maybe it's trying to keep up with security threats. I don't know. But the quality control has completely fallen apart. Windows Central even said Windows 11's reputation is currently in the gutter. Those are their words, not mine. And honestly, can you blame anyone for thinking that? Like, imagine you're just a regular person, you're not a tech person, you don't watch channels like this, you just use your computer for work or school or whatever, and one day you install an update because Windows tells you to, because you're supposed to keep your system secure, right? That's what they always tell you. And then you can't shut down your PC, or your remote desktop stops working, and now you can't do your job. What are you supposed to think? How are you supposed to trust that the next update won't break something else? And speaking of trust, while we're talking about Microsoft breaking your PC with forced updates, let's talk about what else is happening while you're running Windows. Because it's not just about broken shutdown buttons. Every time you're online with Windows, you're being tracked. Your browsing data, your activity, everything's being logged. And with updates this unstable, you're basically forced to choose between security patches that might break your system or leaving yourself vulnerable. But here's the thing. You don't have to deal with that anymore. I've been using ProtonVPN, and honestly, it's one of the best decisions I've made for my privacy. Whether you're stuck on Windows dealing with Microsoft's mess, or you've already made the switch to Linux, ProtonVPN keeps your data private and secure. No logs, based in Switzerland with actual privacy laws, and they've got servers all over the world. Plus, they're the same team behind Proton Mail, so they actually understand privacy isn't just a marketing buzzword. I've got an affiliate link in the description below. If you use that link, you'll get a discount, and it helps support the channel so I can keep making videos calling out Microsoft's disasters. This is what I've been saying in my other videos. This is why people are looking at Linux. This is why Steam Deck with SteamOS is taking off. This is why people call them microslop now. Because when you're on Linux and you run an update, you know what happens? Your system updates. That's it. It doesn't break your shutdown button. It doesn't flashbang you with File Explorer. It just works. Now look, I'm not saying everyone should dump Windows tomorrow. I know most of you can't. You've got software that only runs on Windows. You've got work requirements, whatever. I get it. But Microsoft needs to understand something. Trust, once it's gone, is really hard to get back. And right now, they're bleeding trust with every broken update. If you got hit by this bug or any of the other ones I mentioned, let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many people this affected. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because Microsoft's probably going to break something else next month, and I'll be here to cover it. Check out that ProtonVPN link in the description.
Okay. My comment on this, he brings up Proton VPN. That does not stop Microsoft's telemetry collection, period. Because your connection goes to a server and then goes out on the public internet. And therefore, the information that's in your system that Microsoft is collecting, or Google is collecting, or AWS is collecting, etc., will get to them. A VPN does not stop that. A VPN will prevent your ISP from knowing exactly where you're going and what you're doing. If you don't run a VPN, then your ISP is the first one to get all that information of what you look at on the internet, how long you're doing it, and they can get information about your browser and a lot of characteristics about your system. This gives them a fingerprint of information to always identify you and your machine. Now, I wonder why I have well in excess of 3 dozen machines. Well, I keep using a lot of different ones, but it's not necessarily because I'm trying to defeat the tracking information, etc., that gets reported. I have other reasons for using multiple machines. Anybody else got any comments on this so far? So this is another patch some of you will need. 7797. And the one thing I can't tell you on this one here, because he doesn't address it, does it apply to 24H2 or possibly even 23H2? I don't know. All I know is I'm glad I am not being affected on my 24H2s and 25H2s, so far anyway. And I don't have a NVIDIA GPU that is being affected in December as well as now in January, apparently. So it gets into trust. There's a lot of people that are going to delay updates like crazy. And it's Microsoft's own fault to start with. Whatever is causing the problem, it seems like they're earning what others are saying and calling microslop. And it's because of the sloppy attitude of pushing stuff out before it's been at least checked enough to make sure it minimizes damage. And that damage also applies to their reputation. And it doesn't matter that they have worldwide over 1 billion Windows-based computers right now. Because even if you got over 1 billion, if you're destroying your own reputation, why are people going to keep working with you unless they absolutely have to? And even then, many of them are going to start trying to figure out alternatives. And I'm not pressing Linux as an alternative, because Apple's ecosystem is also equally viable as an alternative to Windows. And some people, I'm sure, are moving from Windows to a Mac OS environment. And supposedly, there may be a lot of people dipping their toes in the waters of Linux, but exactly how many of them actually go forward with it, we all have to sit around and wait and see. Since I'm not hearing anything else, I'll go on to my third one here. This one's very short.
Manager and thought, why is Windows eating my RAM for no reason? This video might save you from disabling the wrong thing. Today we are talking about delivery optimization in Windows 10, same applied to Windows 11, what it actually does and why people blame it for bad performance. And the real answer to the questions, does it really eat your RAM? Delivery optimization is a Windows feature designed to make update faster. Instead of downloading everything from Microsoft, your PC can download updates files from other PCs on your local network, or even from the internet. Think it like official peer-to-peer downloading, but controlled by Windows. People can open Task Manager and see delivery optimizations, and instantly assume something is wrong. But most of the time, Windows just downloading or sharing update files. That's it. No secret spying, no RAM stealing. Here's the truth. Delivery optimization does not eat your RAM. It only uses noticeable memory when Windows is downloading the update or uploading small parts to other PCs. Once it's done, RAM usage drops back. If your PC is idle, it should barely exist. It can feel heavy if you have a low RAM or slow storage or Windows updating in the background while you're actually working. That's not a bug, it's just a bad timing. The first option you can limit, which is recommended, go to Settings, Update Securities, Delivery Optimization, Advanced Options. Here you can limit the download bandwidth, upload bandwidth, and you can do the limit also your monthly upload data. The other option is to turn it off if you don't want the peer-to-peer at all. So you can turn off allow download from other PCs. Update still works just directly from Microsoft. If your PC is modern and your internet is decent, leave it on. If you are on the old laptop or limited data plan, limited or disable the uploads. But blaming it for permanent RAM usage, that's a myth. Now you actually know what is delivery optimization does. If this helped you, hit like, subscribe, and comment if you want a video exposing other Windows myths.
Okay.
If you have a
Oops. There.
Task Manager and thought, why are you eating my RAM for no reason? This video might.
One thing a lot of people may not know, what is delivery optimization? Okay, I have multiple computers. I always go directly to Microsoft per machine to do my updates. However, when you have more than one machine, especially like in a business environment, what you can do is have optimization turned on, and it creates kind of like a store of all the update information that your other machines can update from, instead of only hitting the Windows servers one time on one machine. So that delivery optimization is to reduce the internet clutter of people downloading for each of their machines if they have more than one. So the concept is good, but using the restrictions that he said, one program at a time downloaded, and maybe certain other limitations that he pointed out there are positives. Or you do like I do. I've been doing I think this goes all the way back into Windows 10, if I remember correctly. I turned delivery optimization off, mostly because I did notice when it first was coming out that it was causing me bandwidth problems for internet connections. So this one, I don't remember if I mentioned this at any time in any of the meetings of the past. If I didn't, I'm sorry about that. But when I saw this one along with the other two patches, I thought, hey, I'll put this in TuneNet, and maybe it'll help some people with their issues as well. Any other comments or issues with the article?
Where is the optimization? Where do you turn this on or off?
Well, he showed you through the video. You'll get a copy in the
Okay.
but you just go to your settings. You go down to Windows Update. You go to come on, come back. All right. Now in here, I also turn off. I used to have on here getting latest updates as soon as they're available. And this was because many of the previews are worse than the regular updates they published on the second Tuesday of the month.
Tim,
So,
we cannot see anything that is in
Oh.
that pop-up.
Thank you. Hang on. Let's see here. And screen. Share. Go to your settings. Sorry about that. Do this again. And go to Windows Update. And this get the latest. This normally brings in automatically the preview updates and patches at the end of the month. Okay. Lately, I have shut this off because of problems with their updates to begin with, breaking things.
I've got mine shut off too. So
Well, that's one of the features. Advanced, if you go to that, you get into download updates and metered connections, and I have that off. If you receive updates for other Microsoft products, you may have to have that one on. I don't have other products. If you had the installable version of Office, you would want to have that on. If you are using MS365, odds are you're not going to have that issue or need to have this on. But if you are using some of the other installable versions of Microsoft software, then you have to have that on to get any updates as they get issued. Here is delivery optimization down here under additional updates. And if you come here, I turned it off, but I'm going to turn it on for the moment so I can go down here to download options. This is what he was talking about. I can limit the percentage of background, foreground. I can do some other changes as well. I can go in here and do absolute bandwidth limitation. So this helps slow that down. But this is only to be active if you're going to take advantage of having one main download on one system and sharing that information to the other computers to update them without each of them going to Microsoft to get the update information. That's its sole purpose. So if I've got 10 running Windows systems here, I could download on one machine all the updates. Then I can connect my other machines to that machine to get the updates without going out on the internet to Microsoft on each one of them. That's its sole purpose.
Okay. I got mine shut off, so
Well, a lot of people have it turned on, and that's why it's being brought up as an issue to cut down bandwidth problems.
okay.
Now I'm going to get out of that again and go back. Oop, sorry about that. Get rid of the share. Go there, go there. All right, the next thing I've got here, this is secret Windows tricks, shows you everything, shows you every app on your PC. Basically speaking, you're creating a shortcut. I'm going to play the video and then I'll demo it live.
Howdy folks, Brett here with a quick tip for both Windows 11 and Windows 10 PCs. For most people to see and manage all the programs they have on their computer, there's a few ways they do this that's not the most efficient. One way is to left-click the Start menu and select All here in the upper right. Then you can scroll through a long list of apps on your PC. The second way is to open the Settings app with the keyboard shortcut, which is the Windows key plus I, and select Apps here on the left. Then here on the right, select Installed Apps. At least here, they give you a choice how to view them. You can view them by list, grid, and view them by tile. But once again, you still have to scroll down, which seems like forever if you have a ton of apps installed. And the third way is to use the outdated control panel, which has been a core part of Windows since 1985 with the launch of Windows 1.0. With large icons selected in View By, you would go to Programs and Features. Then scroll through a long list. You can change the view here, but no matter which view you select, it's an inefficient way to view and manage all of your programs. Now I'll show you my preferred way of viewing and managing the apps on my computers. For this one, we'll be using a run command. To do this, the keyboard shortcut is the Windows key plus R key. When it opens, type the prompt, the word shell, followed by a colon, and the words apps folder. Once you have that prompt entered, hit enter on your keyboard. Now you can see more of your apps in the window with less scrolling needed, and it even shows you those that don't appear in the apps list in Windows settings. At the top, you can change the view. My preferred is tiles. If you want to change the view, you have several options here. I'll let you try those out on your own. With this view, it might simplify finding your apps to manage them, and you may discover apps that you have installed that you might have forgotten about. Right-clicking on any of these, you have the choices to open, uninstall, pin or unpin to the Start menu or taskbar, and you can also create a desktop shortcut. Here's one to get rid of, the new Outlook, which is craptastic. You can right-click here to uninstall. Of course, since it's a Microsoft app, it will send you 2 settings to uninstall. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this video was useful.
Okay. I'll stop the share. Go to Windows Control R. And oh, wait a minute, I gotta share my desktop. Forgot about that. Sorry about that. Okay, I've got the run box up here by holding down the Windows key and tapping the R key. I'll key down on the bottom here, SHELL colon APPS folder. It's a plural. It's folders. Whoops, I take that back. It's singular. Sorry about that. Sometimes I put that in and sometimes I forget it. All right. And basically, this is what he was talking about. This machine and everything in the way of programs, apps, and other features are all sitting out here, allowing you to do some things with them live, such as uninstalling. The view up here gives you a bunch of different options, and you also have the sort option, which allows you to sort them by name, by a long display name, ascending order, descending order, or group by apps user modified, by name, or long display name. This group by the name and long name is if you got several apps with the same beginning, they'll all appear close together as a group per se. So it's an interesting little tidbit that I came across in the last couple of weeks. And I thought some of you might really like to play with this. Any comments or opinions on this? Boy, you guys are talking a bunch.
Well, I do like the idea that you can get the apps list so nicely and get the whole folder. Does it show all your apps, including the ones that are portable?
I'll be honest, I didn't think to check that. I do have portable versions. I'd have to bring that up again. Hang on a second. You're not going to see this because I changed the view. I know one to look for. Let's see here. Okay. What I was looking for was Rufus, which I do have. That's a portable app. And also I have Etcher Belina, but I think that one is installed, but I don't remember for sure. No, even Etcher Belina does not appear. So probably not the portables, but you can't have everything. I mean, it's a possibility that if you contact the guy who created that particular piece of software, maybe mention it to him, and maybe he can figure out a way of adding that feature in. Dennis.
Works in Windows 10 and 11?
I didn't try 10, but I'm pretty positive yes it will, because this is a standard command for Windows. It might even work before 10. I'm not sure. You know, if you've got time and machines with older OSs, All you can do is check it out, and it either works or it doesn't work. All right, next up, we have must-have privacy and security tweaks.
We're going to talk about must-have security and privacy tweaks going into the new year. First one is going to be Cloudflare Warp. To understand what this does, first I want to show you something. If you type in ipconfig/display DNS on your computer, it's going to give you a very, very long list. As you can see, we're still going. This is a list of all the sites I've visited on this computer, and by default, Google and your ISP can track every single website that you visit. Now that's not ideal, and Cloudflare Warp is a free solution that allows you to hide that information, protect your privacy to a great extent, as well as speed up your internet. By the way, every tool I mention on this list is going to be entirely free. The way this works is by routing your traffic through the Cloudflare DNS servers instead of your ISP default or Google. Now, before you ask, this is not a replacement for a VPN, so if you do like to use a VPN, you can still do that, but of course, a VPN is going to be a paid option, and it also slows down your internet. This is actually going to speed up your internet and give you a level of privacy that is good enough for most tasks, that at least protects the websites that you visit. It's not going to protect everything like a VPN, and you're not going to be able to pretend to be in Switzerland, but for most basic users, this is a good start. Now, next up, I want you to familiarize yourself with 4 of these tools on the desktop: TCP View, Process Explorer, Autoruns, and Process Monitor. These are all part of the sysinternal suite, which is a huge suite of tools that is available by Microsoft. So if you're a Microsoft user, you can go ahead and download this right away. But like I said, you don't need to know all of it. You just want to familiarize yourself with these 4 tools. I've made many videos on them. But long story short, Autoruns is going to allow you to see everything that runs automatically on your system, including services, drivers. So if any kind of malware embeds itself on the system, it's going to show up somewhere on this list. Similarly, Procmon is going to give you a live view of everything that's happening on your system, including network activity, network connections. If we turn on auto scroll, you can see this is a ton of stuff to keep track of. Registry keys being opened and closed, files being written. It takes a while to learn behind the scenes. There's a lot of filters that you can use to process this data. You can focus on just looking at network activity, just file activity, and it can kind of control what you see here. But it's a very powerful tool, and it gives you so much visibility into what is happening on your own computer. Similarly, Process Explorer is going to be your little alternative to Task Manager, just a more in-depth view of all the process on your system. Now, you can also configure it to check the programs on your system with VARSTotal and submit unknown executables. So that way, again, if there's any kind of malware on the system, you're going to be able to see it here. You're going to be able to see the scan results for every process on your system using all the AV scanners that exist. Pretty cool. TCP View is another good tool that's going to give you a list of all your network activity by process. So you can see that Firefox, our browser, is making some connections. MSMP Engine, this is Windows Defender, is also making some connections. Again, great way to track who's spying on you, what applications are running if you've got a crypto miner, all of that stuff. So do familiarize yourself with these 4 tools. It's going to be so handy. Moving on to the browser, which is a big part of your browsing experience. Now you can use Firefox or Edge, whichever one you prefer. I have Firefox set up here. A big advantage of using Firefox is that it's immune to all the ad blocker blocking technology that Google likes to introduce into Chrome to prevent ad blockers from working, to prevent you from controlling the way you view web pages. Firefox is the only alternative to that, because at the end of the day, every other browser, be it Edge or something else, is some kind of fork of Google Chrome, so whatever update the devs push there gets pushed out everywhere else. But regardless of which browser you choose, what's more important is that you get these 2 extensions.
I want to put in a comment here. He talks, Firefox is the only alternative to Chromium-based browsers, which are the vast majority used. But there are forks of Firefox. And Firefox has been changing its privacy security mantra that has existed for most of its life. And so right now, they're looking at adding AI because Google finances the Mozilla Foundation so that the people who are developing it can get paid some kind of a salary. Number two, there is Libre Wolf that can be installed on most systems. Floor, P, Floor, P as in Paul, is another one. WaterFox is another one. Zen Browser, which I didn't know about until recently, is another one. So they're all based on the original Firefox code and are independent, maintained by others, and they'll just view what Firefox is changing in case it's kind of like a bug fix or a security issue, and make sure that it works into their particular software. So, and I've only touched the surface. There are other browsers based on Firefox. So, believe me, there are additional options out there. So I'm going to proceed on this.
First is Bitwarden. It's the password manager of choice for a lot of people. It's free, it's easy to use, and managing your passwords is going to be a vital part of your security strategy and preventing yourself from getting hacked and maintaining control of all your accounts. And this is just a great tool to do so. It's got an amazing track record. A lot of people swear by it. The other tool you're going to want is uBlock Origin. This is an ad blocker of choice. It's very efficient, and it's also very customizable. One of the things I like to do when I set it up is go straight away into the settings and customize the filter lists. Here you can see all the different filters that are applied, and you can go down and select the ones for cookie notices. This is crucial heading into this year because every single website's going to have that annoying cookie notice pop up, and you don't really want to see that. It ruins the browsing experience. So to me, checking these is a must-have. Once you apply changes, this should be in effect. And now, if we go to google.com, yay, no cookie notice. Now, of course, as a YouTuber, I'm going to do the customary thing and say that you can whitelist websites that you do like to allow ads on. For YouTube, I personally would recommend YouTube Premium. It's way better than blocking ads because you can play your videos on mobile, you still support the creators, you get YouTube Music for free. So it does come with a lot of features that makes it.
And I'm interrupting here because he talks about subscribing to YouTube. They have a low-level one. I think, if I remember correctly, they're charging $7 a month. So take that and figure out what you want to do. Drew King has brought up, and I have something else in my presentation here. There's a program that blocks ads at the DNS level, and that stops them from getting into your machine to begin with. It may still cause a little bit of a problem with the bandwidth that you are receiving, because not everything coming to you is non-ads. The ads take up some of your bandwidth, so it may slow you down a little bit, but not as much.
Worth it, in my opinion. Plus, you don't get any ads without having to deal with the occasional video not loading or breaking up of the site that you will experience if you use an ad blocker. But again, I'm not going to tell you not to use an ad blocker, but just be considerate and whitelist sites that you want to support. Another key concept I want you to keep in mind heading into this year is the idea of zero trust. And I think we've all learned this lesson with Windows 11. You can't simply trust the system by default, and this is going to be more and more the case as attackers use common infrastructure like Discord, like Teams, your friends' hacked accounts to do their malicious operations. So we're going to have to configure our thinking for that. And guess what? I'm actually speaking at the Zero Trust World Conference in Orlando. How exciting. And you could join me by clicking the link in description. Bonus points, it's very close to Disney World and Universal Studios. So if you wanted an excuse to visit Florida, well, here it is. And if you wanted even more of a reason, well, you can use the code ZTW26
2026 PC Security. I'm going to put that on screen because it's a lot to say, but that'll give you a massive discount to get into this top tier security conference, which includes some amazing food, some great security training. So if this was your dream to go into a cybersecurity conference and check it out, this is an amazing opportunity. Plus, you get Florida weather in March. If you do decide to come, definitely come and say hi. I will be around, and we should have my talk pop up in the schedule very soon. But thank you all so much for watching. Do like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the PC Security channel. This is Leo, and as always, stay informed, stay secure.
Any comments? Questions? I feel like I'm the only one here most of the time. Unless you guys are taking cat naps. I got cats here taking cat naps. You can join them. They're nice, warm, and furry. All right. Next up, we have how one person's list blocks ads for millions. Take this with a grain of salt.
Hello, and I've been running an ad and tracker block list for the past 28 years, which is from about 1997. It's basically a collection of domains which are primarily used for tracking or ads on the internet. That's pretty much it.
You cited today in your talk that you believe you're the first person
Yes.
to do this. So what kind of inspired the idea at first?
The story is that a long time ago, I was playing around with a local DNS server. And with a local DNS server, you can configure it to be the master for, like, authoritative for any domain you like. And it will answer as if it was the owner of that domain, authoritative for that domain. And I realized that you could get it to be authoritative for, like, doubleclick.net. And then essentially any requests that were going out from your browser, if they were using that DNS server, you could configure it so that doubleclick.net didn't exist or returned localhost for every query. And I thought I was very clever and decided to put my list of domains on the internet, and I started collecting them, and there was a couple of hundred to start off with. And then I found other people doing the same thing with hosts files, which are sort of I don't know if you are familiar with host files, but it's like a local lookup for domains that happens on the device. And yeah, I just carried on doing it. That's the story, really.
Yeah, it's funny because you said hi to me earlier, and like once you said your name, yeah, because I see, you see it in NextDNS AdGuard. It's like always just an available list, uBlock origin. So how's it kind of been to see what you originally took, and did you see it be so prolific and kind of a de facto tool?
I mean, it's been great. It's the one thing I do that I think is unambiguously kind of good for the internet. I'm not making any money. I get a few Patreon donations, $150 a month, I think in total, or something like that, 180. But yeah, no, I don't advertise that. I don't ask for donations really, and it's good. It's nice. It's a nice warm feeling, A lot of other people do things a lot better than I do, and we put a lot more effort in. But I will say that my list is mine, and every entry I've added, and I've reviewed every entry. I'm quite proud of the list's integrity. So yeah.
So is that the difference between yours? Because there's Easy List, there's AdGuard's list, and so what are people getting when they opt into using the Peter Lowe list?
My specific policy, which I think differs between different block lists. So EasyList has its own policy. They Ryan mostly try and balance usability versus what they're actually blocking. uBlock Origin in particular adds unbreak rules for a lot of entries from my list. If you go to the stats, the filter list stats, you'll see it's using 2,500 of 3,000 entries from my list or something like that. Because some of the rules that I've got in there break things. But yes, I have a very clean list as well. There's very, very few dead entries or false positives, that kind of thing. But it's relatively small. I'm not trying to cover the whole internet, but yes, I think there's the integrity and the cleanliness of the list are two things. And my specific policy, which is any domain which is primarily being used as an ad or a server or a tracker.
Got it. And final thing, why? What inspires you to do it? Is it privacy? Is it just you don't like ads?
That was the original motivation. I didn't like ads, and I realized that by blocking some of the ad domains, it made it cleaner to browse and faster as well, because you completely block any of the hundreds of network requests.
And more efficient,
Yeah, exactly. But then, actually, as it kind of went on, I call myself a closet privacy evangelist, because there's probably more entries on the list now for trackers than there are for ads. And over time, 27 years, I've kind of learned about what stuff is being tracked and where it's being tracked and how it's being used. And it's quite horrible, I think, really, and weird. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest purpose now, and I would say that I'm learned so much about privacy in the meantime.
Yeah. Do you have a quick example for somebody who might not understand how they're tracked? Because all this happens behind the scenes. So do you have an interesting example to share for someone who might go, "What's going on?"
Well, the classic example is the girl who shopped at, I think it was Target. And she was shopping online, and then one day I think she got some free nappies or something like that. I think it was like free food or free baby food or something that basically indicated that she was pregnant. And I can't remember the exact details, but I think her dad found it, or Target knew before she was that she was pregnant because of her shopping habits had changed, and she hadn't disclosed it or anything. And it's kind of scary. The other way I think about it is you get offered stuff on sites based on your user behavior on another site. And I think limited tracking is okay in that, let's say if I go to my local convenience store and I go there every day, and then one day I go there and they've got my newspaper and pint of milk ready for me, that's fine. That's like the guy behind the counter is getting to know me and kind of offering me a bit of convenience. But if I go to the US and go into a convenience store there and somebody offers me a pint of milk and a newspaper, that's weird and creepy. And that's the kind of tracking that's going on.
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah. So
cool. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, any comments, questions? I will say before anybody else pipes in, the handout will have the exact address to download this guy's block list if you're interested. Anybody got any other comments or questions about it?
Well, I must say that whenever I receive targeted ads, it's usually stuff I just bought.
Yeah, because that information gets sold to data brokers. Data brokers, and one of the things in the handout, I got some security stuff. And one of them is a data broker that was selling the medical records of a person that's affected by Alzheimer's. Now, how low do you got to go? I don't know. This is a text. This is out there on the handout also. It's a full text search for your desktop, and I have not had time to test this out. If any of you get to it and try it out, let me know how it works, because I'm not sure when the heck I'm going to be able to get to it. But basically speaking, this is somebody's cute idea competing with Microsoft's recall function for anybody that has a Copilot Plus PC of any kind, and that includes the Snapdragon laptops that were a real bomb was last year in 2024. So this is somebody's cute idea, because we're all forgetful, and we know we got something somewhere. Well, this might be a tool that you can use to be able to quickly search for all your documents. I'm sure the first time you run it, it's going to take quite some time to build up the database of information, and then it'll probably maintain it as you do changes or additions onto your system thereafter. So take this one with a little bit of a grain of salt. Also, it It may not be for everybody. It depends upon your memory and how much help you need. It's not as potentially invasive like recall would be. And if you have a machine that has the NPU running Windows 11, you probably should check out under privacy and security, do you have BitLocker turned on? If you have it turned on, recall is very likely running, and getting all that information of everything you do, every place you go online to Microsoft. If you want to stop it, turn BitLocker off and it will disable recall. That's one option that I know does work. I have older systems that don't have a CPU that has an NPU in the CPU chip. Therefore, BitLocker may be turned on, but recall isn't even on the system because it can't handle it. Only a Copilot Plus rated PC will have the issue. But this is more information that Microsoft is pumping out of your system, and they sell that data to the data brokers. Anybody online has umpteen different places collecting their data and selling it to the data brokers, making money. Any comments?
What you say is interesting about BitLocker because I was wondering why. When I installed Windows 11, from a download, I actually did my own installation on my new laptop. It has an NPU, which is quite capable. And I found BitLocker was turned on, and I didn't even do anything to turn it on. That might have had to do with recall.
No,
I never thought to check.
No, really, it's a case where if you do even a clean install of 11, 24H2 or 25H2, it turns BitLocker on whether you're on a desktop or a laptop or a tablet that can run the Windows 11 platform. It will try and turn on BitLocker. Now, BitLocker by itself is a good thing if you have portable devices like a tablet or a laptop and you take them out of your home to say a cafe that you or a restaurant that you're going to or some other event like the live meetings we used to have. I would take a system with me, but BitLocker I always had off even on laptops because it can cause some headaches when you try and do certain things on your system when you've got a problem. So BitLocker and recall are tied together. And this is because of the outcry back in 2024 when they first announced about recall, because it's such an invasion of privacy, and all that information can be stolen by other malware and hackers also. Well, Microsoft withdrew it for a while, but has brought it back in 25H2 by turning BitLocker on a clean install, which is if you buy a new machine, that's classified a clean install. And so it's turned on so that it's encrypting and protecting the data that recall is collecting. So that's why a lot of people are seeing or finding out they have BitLocker on to protect some of the outcries of what recall does. And it's up to you, the individual, to decide enough is enough and you start turning some of this off. I do have a few articles out there also that are about debloating tools and turning off all the AI in Windows. There's another one that's about turning off privacy invasion and being able to stop them collecting. But one of the main things you can do is close your standard account. I never attach the administrator's account to Microsoft anyhow, only the standard account. Take and make a new local account, and that may have some challenges, and move your stuff from the attached account into the new account, and then blow away the attached Microsoft account, and it turns off a lot of the stuff that's causing evasive data collection and even some of the AI features and capabilities. I'm going to move on.
Address is fake. Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for AskLeo.com. The very, very short answer is you may not be able to. There are two parts to what most email programs will use as a contact or an email address. One is the actual email address, and the other is called the display name. So, for example, you might see Ask Leo as the display name with leo@askleo.com in angle brackets. However, not all email programs will display it that way. For example, you might just see something that says, Ask Leo. It might have an underline on it, it might have something that you could click on or hover over to show more, but the reality is it's only displaying the display name and hiding the actual email address associated with that. Spammers will often leverage that. What they will do is they will make the display name look like an email address, and then have an email address behind it. For example, you might see from leo@askleo.com. But the real email address behind it is leo@somerandomservice.com. That unless you look more closely, you might think you're sending email or getting email from leo@askleo.com when in fact it's a completely different unrelated email address. Now, what we really want to look at next is the structure of the actual email address. An email address has several different parts. The first part is the actual email account. So using leo@askleo.com as my example, Leo up front is the email account. The @ sign is a separator that separates the account from what follows. What follows then is the domain, askleo.com, the domain of whatever mail server is supposed to handle that email. And the domain itself has several parts. In the case of AskLeo.com, there's the Ask Leo, which is the part that I purchased, the period, which is a separator, and then com, which is what's called a top-level domain. And to be clear, it is also possible to have multiple parts to that. So, for example, newsletter.askleo.com is both a very legitimate domain, and in some cases, that form can be used to send and receive email. One of the first things you can do when you see an email address like leo@askleo.com is look up who owns the domain. What that would mean is going to a tool like whois.domaintools.com or any of several others and actually looking up askleo.com. You'll see that the domain is owned. It may not tell you who's got the domain, but you'll be able to see that, yes, in fact, this domain exists. If it comes back as not found, then, well, it might be a fake email address. Another scenario, of course, is what I would call typos and misleading domains. For example, my email address is leo@askleo.com. If you were to get email from Leo, L-A-O, at askleo.com, it might be close enough to looking right, except it's clearly a typo and it's not me. Similarly, lookalike domains can do the same thing. For example, if you see email from leo@goaskleo.com, then that's not askleo.com. That's a completely separate and unrelated domain. In that case, then you might be tempted to think of it as being related to Ask Leo and potentially being legit, except there's a good chance that it's not. Now, there are character replacements, and these are a little bit trickier. The best example I can give you is that if we start with leo@askleo.com and we replace that L at the beginning with the number 1, well, they are two different email addresses. The difference between askleo.com and ask1eo.com, that is a completely different domain and is completely unrelated to askleo.com. And yet, it may look very similar if you're just taking a quick look at a from line or a to line. Now, one of the things that is very, very common in spam and scam emails is that the display name that we talked about earlier doesn't really match the email address. So everything looks legitimate. It's a perfectly well-formed email address. There's nothing really shaky about it. And there's a display name in front of it. And maybe you're seeing both of them. Except if you see that there is an obvious mismatch between the two. For example, if you see email that says it's from Bill Gates, but the email address is leo@askleo.com, that is a huge red flag. The name doesn't match the email address. It's a very quick thing to look at. Does the display name make sense for the email address that it's being associated with? By now, I think you're probably familiar with the concept of DNS. DNS is the service that maps things like domain names, like askleo.com, into their actual IP addresses. So, for example, right now, somerandomservice.com maps to an IP address of 52.27.227.69. The mail infrastructure is also handled in DNS. There's what's called an MX record, which stands for Mail Exchange Record. And that identifies which mail server is supposed to handle the email for a specific domain. The tool that I recommend you use for this is called MX Toolbox. They have a MX lookup specifically for this kind of thing, and it'll tell you right away what the MX record, who the email server is supposed to be, and of course it'll tell you if there isn't one. If you look up the MX record for askleo.com, you'll find that it's handled by mail.askleo.com. The bottom line, though, and the reason that I started out by saying you may not be able to, is that everything could be valid. Remember, spammers can make the from line look whatever they want it to look like, which means they could be sending you spam that looks like it comes from Ask Leo. There's no way to prevent that. And what that means is you always need to be on your guard, regardless of what you see in the from line. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/164415.
Any comments or questions? There's another Ask Leo that gets into email addresses that would be also a good one, but I don't have it on at my fingertips right now. But it breaks down how some devious people can formulate the addresses so it looks like it's going where you expect it to go, and it ends up somewhere else. That's how they get a lot of your personal information, including possibly passwords and usernames, even security codes possibly could be captured, and you're on the hook. If I can think of what that specific one was, and that I can try emailing you guys that one. Next up, Windows 10 File Explorer tips everyone should know, and this particular browser doesn't have a reader's view. But anyway, show file extensions, look under View, and the sub menu also has additional things. And under that view, under Show, you can tell it, your system, you want to see hidden items by clicking on it, and it puts a check mark to the right side, meaning it's active. So it'll stay active while you are in the current logged in session. It may change back to not show you hidden files in future sessions. Make this PC the default page, and basically it gives you some control over where the Explorer initially opens itself up at on your system. So basically you're saying, hey, let's take an example here with me. Right now, if I want to, I can say the video folder is what I want. And when I'm done with this meeting, I will be getting into File Explorer, going to the video folder, because that's where this meeting recording is located at. And then I can rename, tell it what this meeting was by name, and then I can take and play it to make sure everything looks and sounds okay with sound and general video. It's not playing all the way through. I jump from place to place to place, and then I transfer it to my Google Drive in one of my Google accounts, and then I send that an email with a link to that video to Sanford to post up on the YouTube channel for CCS. Then you have enable checkboxes. Boy, when this feature came out, I was hunting high and low how to turn this thing off, because it drove me nuts. I cannot do the normal things I do with File Explorer with the checkboxes. With the checkboxes, you go through and you check off everything perhaps that you want to copy or move from the current location to another location, or to delete those entries, such as in the download folder. I'm done with them, like PDF files I download. Okay, if I'm not keeping them for a permanent record, I check off umpteen ones. They may all be grouped together. They may be individually scattered throughout the folder. It doesn't matter. To get rid of them all at one time, you put the checkbox in each thing that you want to get rid of. Hit the trash can at the top bar, and it'll go to the trash bin, unless before you hit the trash can, hold down the shift key, hit the trash can, and it'll do a permanent delete after asking you, are you sure this is what you want to do? And if you say yes, it permanently deletes them. They're not recoverable with general tools, but there are other tools that will allow you to recover them on an individual basis. But you're going to have to go in and change names. Recuvia is one such application. In File Explorer, show a full path name on the title bar. Now, sometimes this is a good thing, because one of the problems a lot of people have is they're not paying attention to what they're doing, and they're saving files, and they have no idea where was it saved. If they turn this on up at the top bar, it will tell you exactly what drive and what folder, what subfolders that file appears in. And then you can go straight to that location and know exactly where the file is, open it up, or do something else with it, whatever the case may be. Launch folders in separate process. This gives you the ability to launch applications in various places. A good example would be the programs and files and program files in parentheses x86. You'd be able to go there and launch those. Also, under Windows, Systems 32 has lots of programs in there that most people don't know about, and many of them are a bit primitive, but they do work, and they do what needs to be done in certain circumstances. So there are lots of places where you can help launch applications through File Explorer. You can expand the folder in the navigation pane. This helps if you have many subfolders under a folder. A good one for people who take a lot of pictures or music might be in those two general folders of photos and music. Could also be in the video folder as well. You may have many category folders that allow you to organize your information, and then you'll see all the subfolders that are under there, so you can go quicker to it without having to manually find the subfolder, click on it. If it's got subfolders, you got to click on that and keep going. This may be a way of expanding it automatically and finding it easier to get to the subfolder for what you are looking for explicitly. Hide recent activity in the folders. Never thought about this one, but for some people, when you are in a home that has more than just you, there may be nosy busybodies wondering what the heck you're doing. So this is something to cover your tracks, I guess is the best way to state that one. Make use of the search bar. I have used search bar off and on. It tends to be slow, and it depends upon the speed of your processor, how much memory you got, and its speed, the storage device you're using and its speed, etc., as to how quick this search feature works. Generally, if I'm looking for something that has to do with something in File Explorer, I'll bring up everything application and search there. It's very quick. And by the time I get the information, I can click right in everything and be right to the file I want. But it also shows you everything that matches up in part or in whole in everything. So the list can be quite lengthy. So the best thing to do there is to be as precise what you're looking for as possible. Use File Explorer tabs. This is a fairly new feature that was brought out in 24H2, and I have used it some. some people prefer having a double pane or more using a replacement file explorer program. This here allows you to have multiple tabs open just like a browser, so that you can have each folder open to a specific drive, folder, subfolder, etc. And you can do copies, move over to the other tab, and paste it where you want to go. So it's a different way of doing the same thing without having multiple split screens on one file explorer. And then quickly open command line in the current folder, which is something I didn't know I could do, but it's an interesting thing because, for example, if you were to use, say, a Windows 11 and also 10 debloater optimizer program, it's a power script. So it would be in your download folder as a .ps1, and this would allow you, instead of having to double click that, you would instead just put in CMD or PowerShell and launch it directly. So that's something to look into. I got to look into that myself. Any comments, questions? Now, there were some things that he brought up in there that may be expanded in the notes. I don't remember for sure or not. So I'm going on to the next. You're using Windows 11. Wrong. Until you learn these 31 gaming changing tricks. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll go through some of them. Realign the start button as to where it's at, such as a lot of people don't like 11 having your taskbar icons in the center, Mac style, and they want to change it back to a Windows 10 and earlier Windows to the left side of the screen. They don't give you the ability to go to the right side of the screen. However, there have been some ways that people have found to be able to do that. That's another topic. Get AI assistance with Copilot. Now, I use Copilot, I use Gemini, I use Claude. Once in a blue moon, I use Perplexity. A lot of people like it. But at the same time, too, no matter whose AI product you use, they're collecting that information. And they're using the feedback. That's the trick. So when I open up a Copilot, Gemini, Claude, whatever, I do my initial search. It gives you recommendations. The key is tell the client, AI client, what options you looked into and what the results of that were. And you don't do just one and hit enter. You keep collecting each thing that you examine in the first set of search results, giving all the feedback and any additional information you can think of that might help guide the next set of AI replies back to you to be more focused. And then when you hit the enter key, it analyzes all that, knows what you tried, what happened, and any extra information you provide, and gives you the next set of recommendations. You keep giving it feedback of what you tried, what was the results of what you tried, and any additional information that helps focus down to what you wanted, because I had a used Dell Latitude 5490 laptop, and instead of coming with Windows on it, it came with Linux Mint. Well, I use Linux, and so I decided, even though it was 11 compliant machine, I left Linux on it, and I updated it all together, etc., etc. But I had a problem, and it took a lot of going through the AI clients to find a solution, which was very, very strange. And when I saw what it told me, I said, I'll bet you this is the answer. And it absolutely was the correct answer to get the problem solved. So this is how you use AIs productively. When you got a problem, it may be your salvation, but only if you give it feedback. Otherwise, it doesn't know what works and what doesn't work. So what it's given you, in a matter of speaking, the very first search you do is the equivalent of calling up a company that seems to have the software that's having a problem. And if you get to talk to a person, they are an entry-level person, and they go through a lot of questions and answers, etc., to narrow down the problem and maybe solve it. But at the same time, too, if they come up with no answer, they forward that to a more advanced person who may be able to resolve your problem, or they get another person involved. As far as they got to go to get a resolution, and if they can't give you a resolution while you're on the phone, they'll get back to you with a resolution later, provided you give them your information. Customize the quick settings panel. In other words, this here, if you right click down here on the systems tray information on the right side of the taskbar, you can customize what shows up here. If you're not using Wi-Fi because you're connected to Ethernet, you can turn the Wi-Fi off, and if something happens that you don't have Ethernet, you can turn the Wi-Fi back on and connect back up via Wi-Fi if the machine supports the Wi-Fi. I do that on quite a number of my machines, including laptops. So that's something to think about. Create and manage multiple desktops. This is a seldom used feature that includes in Linux as well, and I'm pretty sure the same feature exists in Mac OS as well. Basically, instead of only having one desktop and cluttered with all kinds of open programs all over the place, and you're trying to find get to from the showing top program to another one that's buried underneath, and you have to do various tricks. What you do is you spread your programs over multiple virtual desktops, and then you go from screen 1 to screen maybe 4, or screen 4 back to screen 2, etc., etc. And this spreads it out and makes it easier to be more productive. And I'll have more on this particular topic in the Linux SIG group. See information at a glance with widgets. Now, widgets is something that goes way back, if I remember correctly, to Vista, which was a predecessor to 7, which a lot of people didn't like, and 7 cleaned that up a lot. But I don't care for widgets on the desktop, and there are a lot of people that don't either. So I usually go under personalization toolbar and turn off widgets. That's my way of dealing with widgets. So if you like widgets, you can read through that bit. Learn new ways to snap your Windows layouts. This has expanded in Windows 24H2 and 25H2. This may be very beneficial to where you have multiple window fragments opened so that you can see what is on your desktop, and you can focus in on the one you want at a given point in time by clicking on it, and you can enlarge it and then shrink it back down into the small window. So that's another option to virtual desktops if you do it right. Connect your phone for text, calls, and more. Samsung phones are the easiest. Other Android phones, some of them will experience problems trying to connect your phone to the computer, and you may have some limitations. iPhone is better than it ever has been, but it's not as good as a Samsung Android phone. Increase security by using passkeys. I'll let you read on that. This is another in accounts. Passkeys can be saved in Windows. I don't do that. I save mine in Bitwarden. And there are other password managers that also will save passkeys. In fact, related to that is almost all browsers will allow you to save online account usernames, passwords, and passkeys within the browsers. I don't use those. I turn that feature off so that it doesn't ask me even, do I want to save it or do I want to update the information I already have saved. That's the job of my password managers, and they do a great job. Bitwarden works just fine. Many others work too, but Bitwarden is free. It works on the phones, tablets, laptops, desktops, and if there's somebody with a super computer like I can't think of the name of it right now. It's under development. Quantum computer. You got a quantum computer, it would probably work there too. Get things done with focus sessions. I've only used the do not disturb feature under this. This is under settings, focus subcategory. And but it is a way of saying I want a timeout from various interference from ads, pop-ups, etc. But it doesn't do all pop-ups. Pop-ups of software you have installed still come up. But you can reduce it, and when the period is up, maybe it would be a good idea to get up and walk around some. And that's not a joke. So you can set it, say, for 50 minutes or 55 minutes, and get up and walk around for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes in your home. It gets you working and moving around, and it's better for your health. Get the most out of the updated File Explorer. I'll let you look into that. There are a few things there that they got in the way of ideas. And there's more and more, as you can see. Any comments on what I did cover? I'm not going to go through the rest of them. Hearing no comments, I'll move on. Geeky Gadgets. Microsoft Copilot for beginners. This is something that if you're not much into the AI clients, you at least need to review and take what I've already told you into account, as well as you read through this net to learn how to use not just Copilot, but Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, and a plethora of other AI clients that are out there. You don't have to have an app on your phone. You do not have to have it integrated into all your facets of your operating system. Open up any browser, go to a tab. You want Copilot? Type in copilot.microsoft.com. It gets you exactly what you're asking for. Or put in Gemini.google.com. Put in Claude. And Claude is CLAUDE is an Edward .ai. And it'll take you there. You do have to go through a challenge that'll send you an email. You got to put in an email address. They send you a email, and it gives you a code, and you put in the code, and it lets you in. It's to stop some of the botnets from gaining access. Any questions? Issues? Next, I save hours of typing on Windows with this tiny open source app. Meet Beef Text, a tiny but mighty app, small, simple, and powerful. And you're basically using some features in your existing system to help you gain snippets and many other things that will help you increase your productivity and reduce your typing overall. Next up, this free tool moves files much faster than Windows Explorer by itself. It's called Fast Copy. There's another program that I use, TerraCopy. It will give you the option when you want to copy one or more files of using a File Explorer or TerraCopy. And TerraCopy does multiple things overlapping in transfers. So it does things much, much quicker, especially like video files. If you're doing multiple video files, you're talking anywhere between 200 and 600 megabytes or better in size, depending on the compression ratio of the video. So it's something to look into. This is all in the handout. Now this one here, didn't bring it up. Okay. Maybe I forgot. But anyway, this free app makes transferring files between devices ridiculously easy. So if you are using your phone like a camera and you want to transfer them back and forth, and or you have some pictures on your desktop, laptop, tablet that you want to transfer to the phone because you're visiting friends or relatives, etc., especially during holidays. This is a quick way of doing it. You can also transfer music files both ways. You can do video files. Video files, especially if you want to transfer them to like a tablet, it would be a good way of doing that. And you can play your own videos while you're taking an airplane ride or Amtrak, or you're a passenger in a car. keep you entertained while not disturbing the driver. So take a look at that one. And oh, I think I did it. No, that's new tab. Okay. That's all I've got right now. There's way more in the handouts. So I'm going to stop that. And hang on 1 second here. Okay. I am going to shoot myself in the head. Oh, rats. I keep forgetting to do that first. All right. So I'm putting the handout in chat. Okay, take a look and download your copy.
Don't see it yet.
Well, it's sent. So I don't know what to tell you.
Tim, I think you may have sent it to me only.
Well, it's a possibility. Okay. Just in case that's true. See, I did send Bob a message. And okay. Okay, you should be able to see it now. Does everybody have their download? Remember, some of you are muted. So at least wave your hand if you got it.
Got it.
Okay. As long as everybody got it. Is there any last things that we want to talk about or questions, etc., before I turn off the recording?
One of the things that I use a lot for displaying two different files on the screen is the Windows key and E. That'll cause, if you've got File Explorer open, it'll make another copy.
Yes, I've done that before too. That's an old trick. You can also, since it's down on your taskbar, you can open it up one time by clicking on it. And then if you click on that icon again, it'll give you the option of opening another Explorer. And you could have more than just two if there was a need.
Yep.
So you have the shortcut on the keyboard, and you have the ability to do multiples on the taskbar icons. Almost all of them will give you the option, including browsers, to open up a new window. Even though you've already got the browser open, you can open up a brand new blank window that way by clicking on the icon on your taskbar, selecting the program name, and it'll open up a new window because it already knows the browser itself is running. Anything further? Okay, then I'm going to turn off the recording. I hope.